Okay, so this guy just died and we kind of have to talk about it. And yes, I have heard the news and I do have the information that you're searching for. We will go over Luigi Mangione in a second, okay? But first, special thanks to the people that you're seeing on screen right now. These are my special subscribers, Supergoop, my literal biggest fan, my wife, okay? Strawberry Milkshakes, Ghost Biscuits, and Hammy H. It's subscribers like you guys that keep me from being suicidal. Brian Robert Thompson, born July 10th, 1974 in Ames, Iowa, has just been assassinated at the age of 50 years old. This guy was only half a century years old and he was hated like a 200-year-old dictator. Some of the things you guys are saying about him are like, Jesus Christ, you would think he had hunted down the family dog or something. Brian Thompson made his money by denying people care and pricing them to death. What goes around comes around. Live by the gun, die by the gun. Rotten pieces, Brian. UnitedHealth CEO Brian Thompson died doing what he loved, increasing shareholder value. Hold up, isn't it crazy how some people are taking this news as a great time to invest? Like, oh my God, Brian just died. Let me go ahead and buy a few shares real quick. When you're wanted for the shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, but you're just a chill guy who needed prior authorization and believes in karma. Jesus Christ. Y'all are like heartless. This entire debacle is probably confusing to some of you guys, so let me explain who exactly Brian was and why people are so angry at him. Brian Thompson was the CEO of UnitedHealth Group, a company that made over $371 billion in 2022, with a net profit of $22 billion. Because of this number, certain people are mistaking Brian for being a billionaire, when he was in fact only worth about $42.9 million. A far cry from a billion doubloons. I'm not saying he didn't have money, because $42.9 million is still very respectable. But what I am saying is that he would need a little over 23 times that net worth to achieve that kind of number. Despite this, Brian Thompson achieved historic profits for UnitedHealth Group during his employment. And these historic profits definitely lined his pockets. He may have not been a billionaire, but he did receive a very handsome annual bonus of around $10.2 million in 2023. Now, I don't know about you guys, but a $10 million bonus would certainly make my life a whole lot more easier. According to Homeland Security's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, or simply the PSI, UnitedHealthcare's prior authorization denial rate for post-acute care surged from 10.9% in 2020 to 16.3% in 2021 to 22.7% in 2022. Brian was promoted to CEO in 2021, so we can discern that his methods was the catalyst for this exponential increase in denials. I know I just said a lot of mumbo jumbo to you guys, so let me define a couple terms. A prior authorization, aka a pre-approval, is what you need to receive any kind of treatment without paying for it out of pocket. This could be anything from getting stitches to even chemo. Basically, without prior approval, your health insurance likely won't pay for your treatment, leaving you 100% responsible for the full bill. And yes, this even goes for things covered under your insurance plan. This is how they delay things to save money and defend their increased profits. And just so we're abundantly clear, in case you didn't hear me the first time, UnitedHealth Group was making record profits under Brian's leadership, with personal finance platform Value Penguin even stating UnitedHealthcare denies 32% of claims compared to the industry average of 16%. That's a lot of people getting coverage denied for things they desperately need, while also simultaneously paying their insurance bill on time every month. This habit of delaying treatment, denying coverage, and defending profits leads us back to the death of Brian Thompson, where the assassin apparently wrote "Deny, Defend, Depose" on the bullets left at the crime scene, which really is some cold-hearted shit. This guy actually planned this entire hit over a long period of time. He was very methodical with it. Heck, he even used a fake ID at the hostel he was staying in and was there 10 days prior to the actual assassination. However, he wasn't perfect. In fact, far from it, with his biggest mistake being him flirting with a girl and showing his face on camera. This is probably the reason why he was identified at a local McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. But I'll cover that in a second. Look at that handsome smile. I like how the media is really gassing up this guy like he's John Wick or something, when in actual reality, he was sloppy at certain points, like the aforementioned showing his face even though he's in a public establishment, having a gun that jams easy, further prolonging the actual assassination, etc, etc. On top of that, a very prime suspect has just been apprehended, and along with all the evidence that he left at the crime scene, including the backpack, he likely is cooked. But I'll go over the finer details later in this video. What I really want to talk about is today's sponsor, DeadThreads.
Well, actually, DeadThreads isn't today's sponsor, but I really wanted to do another shout out because the last video kind of bombed and I kind of feel bad, so you know what?
I know you guys have noticed a custom made shirt I have on in this video, so like the great Kendrick Lamar once said, let me put y'all on game. I got this piece from DeadThreads 47 and they're the sponsor of this video. They actually reached out randomly and asked me what were some of my favorite anime of all time. I gave them a decent sized list and they whipped this magnificent work up. I've worn this shirt out in public several times and I always get a compliment on it. DeadThreads are eco-friendly and give older clothing a second life by modernizing it. Everything is handmade and quality checked individually. You may have noticed I call my shirt a piece because I genuinely consider it a work of art. The craftsmanship done on this clothing is exceptional. They are currently working on a more personalized site, but until then you can primarily reach them by their Instagram page. Or if you're in the greater Petersburg area in Florida, they are serving brick and mortar at Wendy's Closet. This is how you will get your very own custom one-of-one piece made. If reaching out online, tell them Evil sent you for a special discount on the price. Special thanks again to DeadThreads. Now back to the video. Okay. The real subject of today's video is leaving a legacy. You see, Brian Thompson ran a company, increased profits, and made a lot of powerful people happy. Unfortunately, he also ruined a lot of innocent lives. Literally, too many lives to count.
Hi, I'm Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealth.
And while this isn't a particularly unique thing to Brian, as there are quite literally thousands of extremely rich and powerful CEOs, Brian is the subject of this video because his actions directly inspired a crazy and unhinged person to track him down and then gun him down in the middle of a busy New York street. His death means that your actions have consequences. We can see that in not only the actions of his assassin, but also in the actions and words being said about him posthumously. Brian Thompson was a loving father to 2 children, and right now they're online reading about how terrible their father was because he denied people the health care they were paying for, which is really tough. I actually feel really bad for those kids, while also standing by the title of this video. Although I don't actually consider Brian to be ActuallyEVIL. Let me explain. Brian Thompson was a businessman whose business was in the health sector. Yes, while I do agree that this kind of business should be under tight leash to not allow the exploitation of its customers, I do still realize that it is in fact a business. And like all for-profit businesses in existence, the most important thing is growth and increasing revenue. I honestly can't reasonably say that Brian did any of the terrible things he did or pushed any of the terrible policies he helped create for anything other than expanding a business. And I can't say that his actions were driven by malice or if he even wanted to hurt people. Rather, it appears his actions were driven by profit margins, and that in itself hurt people. Which means I don't think he's actually evil. I think he's a scumbag. And the same thing for the assassin. Even though he's quite literally a murderer, I don't consider him evil. In the same way I wouldn't call Batman evil for being a vigilante, I'd call this man's methods extremely misguided instead. And while we're on the topic of this handsome assassin, which isn't a label I'm putting on him, it's a label a bunch of netizens are putting on him after seeing his Colgate smile on camera, I think it's important we cover everything he did to even achieve this result.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
So after you hit that subscribe button, let's start where all stories do, the beginning. Okay, I assume that's more than enough time. Once upon a time, a handsome assassin arrived on a Greyhound bus from Atlanta on November 24th at or around 10:11 p.m. He was pretty tired from the bus ride and chose to take a cab to the High NYC hostel on Amsterdam Avenue near West 104th Street. He would arrive there around 11 p.m. While at the hostel, he would be very careful. He checked in with a fake New Jersey ID and even paid for the room in cash. He made sure to never take off his mask during his stay, never revealing his face for anyone to see, even inside his shared room. If you've never been to a hostel before, I haven't either, so we're in the same boat. But it's basically a place where a bunch of people sleep in one room on different beds. This is what the inside of one of these rooms may look like. This is, in fact, the same hostel he stayed at, so his experience was pretty close to this, all things considered. On Friday, November 29th, our prominent-nosed assassin would check out. This would not be by his own choice. This was an automated checkout created by the system. The next day, on the 30th, he would then check back into the hotel, but not after flirting with the desk clerk and showing his full face to the fancy damsel. Actually, this picture happened on November 24th. But for the sake of the storyline, let's spice things up a bit. Our edgy assassin would then do the very posh thing and eat at Starbucks. It's unclear if he went anywhere else and actually had edible food or anything besides sugary bean water. On Monday, December 2nd, our favorite CEO would land in New York. Now, something I didn't mention before is the weird quote-unquote coincidence of the assassin knowing this guy's whereabouts. Knowing that Brian wasn't staying at the Hilton, even though that was where the conference was, and also the fact that Brian didn't have a armed security guard or some type of bodyguard, etc., etc. So either our white passing assailant was incredibly lucky, or this was an inside job, with someone else close enough to Brian feeding info to the assassin directly, which I think is probably the more likely conclusion, but who knows. Then on Wednesday, December 4th, it all goes down from there. Now, for some reason, this is where a bunch of misinformation gets jammed into this case. On one timeline from AP News, they say that this guy left his hostel at 5:30 a.m., but on another timeline from CBS, they say he wasn't even at his hostel and instead gets caught on camera at 5 a.m., leaving near the Frederick Douglass housing project on Manhattan's Upper West Side. These two areas have a difference of about 7 minutes or 0.3 miles, so for the sake of continuity, let's just say that he wasn't at the hotel. He was actually somewhere else at the Frederick Douglass housing apartments, and then he went back to the hotel to check out at 5:30 a.m. That way everything kind of lines up. But please note that I'm just doing some headcanon-y stuff right now. I know that the actual police checked a nearby building next to the Frederick housing complex, so I know that there was actually something there. But you know, these articles, they just keep regurgitating the same type of information, so nobody knows who the fuck is actually really serious about their stuff. All right. Anyways. Continuing on, despite this huge discrepancy, either way, this means this guy was up around 4 a.m. for the sole purpose of ending Brian Thompson. That is a level of dedication that many people simply just don't have. He was on a mission. From now on, I'm going to refer to this guy as Luigi. Please note that this Luigi, who is being questioned right now, may or may not have done this crime. So when I say Luigi, just think about Mario's brother. From there on, Luigi, let's go, is on the move. At 6:15 a.m., he exits a subway station. Then just 2 minutes after that, he's spotted inside another Starbucks. I don't understand why this guy goes to Starbucks. There's no edible food there. He was hungry, and he purchased a bottle of water and at least one energy bar. Just a couple of blocks away, Brian Thompson wakes up early for his important conference. Instead of staying at the Marriott, he shacked up at the hotel across the street. When police questioned his co-workers as to why he was on the move so early, they noted that he must have been on the way there to set up, as he was actually in charge of the event. Brian exited his hotel around 6:40 a.m. Just 4 minutes after this, he would be gunned down after passing Luigi. It is said that the assassin shot him at least 3 times before Brian collapsed on the ground. Police think he used a B&T Station 6 to get the job done, but we now have conflicting new information on what weapon he actually had. In the heat of the moment, Luigi's gun jammed and he had to fix it mid-assassination. Very professional of you, Luigi. He would shoot Brian again at least one more time before fleeing into a nearby alleyway.
Gunshots fired outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan.
Got a male shot outside of the hotel. No prep description at this time.
His adrenaline was up, but he was exhausted. And as soon as he got on 6th Avenue, he hopped on an e-bike heading towards Central Park. Once inside the park around 6:48 a.m., he ditched his backpack. Keep in mind, he still has the e-bike and uses it to continue his escape. At 6:58 a.m., he passes a camera on 85th and Columbus Avenue, and once he hits 86th Street, he ditches the e-bike. Continuing on, he likely had a crazy blood pump and he was just on the move getting it. Until about 7:04, where he enters a taxi. There's a 30-minute drive from where he is to the bus station, and he gets on, or presumably gets on, a Greyhound bus out of New York. This is where he would vanish completely. At least, that was the story we had up until today, where a man named Luigi Nicholas Mangione was recognized after being spotted at a McDonald's. The former high school valedictorian who graduated from an Ivy League college was caught in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Dude got spotted at 9:14 a.m. trying to buy a big breakfast with bacon and hotcakes. I see you. Nah, in all seriousness, this is probably our guy, and here's why. 1, this guy was traveling on a Greyhound bus through Altoona. 2, they also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with the ones worn by our wanted individual. 3, they also recovered a fraudulent New Jersey ID matching the same one used to check into the New York City hostel. 4, they found a murder weapon, which they call a ghost gun. A fitting weapon for Luigi, who owns a haunted mansion. If you don't know what a ghost gun is, it's basically a gun assembled from various parts without a serial number. This makes it incredibly hard to track down and is very illegal. 5, they even found a 3-page document that reads like a manifesto that Luigi had ill will towards corporate America. So by all accounts, this guy is completely I didn't even talk about the DNA evidence that they have on him, did I? Yeah. Okay, let's get through it, okay? Let's get through it, all right? 3 9mm rounds and 3 discharged casings. The backpack that he left inside the park that had a Tommy Hilfiger jacket inside of it. So there's DNA on both of those articles. Keep in mind that they used an excavator to move this backpack. They even have the dirt that was around the backpack. They are dusting the entire thing for evidence. They didn't want to touch this, okay? They were like, oh my God, there's the backpack. Okay, secure the perimeter. Then they got an excavator to just grab it, okay? A cell phone that was found on the route to the park and even used, drinking materials and so on and so forth that he left at the crime scenes. So yeah, I mean, they now have a guy to test the DNA against. That's the biggest thing. Before it was like, okay, we have DNA, but if he's not in the system, then we're lost. But now we have a guy who not only matches the description, looks exactly like the guy who's on all of this security footage and all that, has a guy who has literally the ID. Just that by itself, he's caught. Just that by itself, pinning him down with evidence. He's done. He's done. He is actually done. Like, it is done. It is over. His life is over. I did want to actually talk about a little bit of the guy's circumstances. Like, he's an Ivy League valedictorian. All right, this guy is he's handsome. All right, let's just say it. He actually literally is handsome. We actually have pictures of him now. Show you guys. He has, look at his abs. Look at his abs. Look at those abs, my guy. Look at those abs. This guy is he was incredibly smart, at least in the education system. But he just threw all of that away. He had everything. He literally had the full package, all right? He got spawned with all of the correct equipment. He had the highest stats, everything that he could ask for. And he just threw it away. He could have tried to dismantle the healthcare system by getting inside of it and try to pass legislation like a smart individual. But instead he was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to kill a CEO. That's going to help anything. Even then, that didn't actually change anything, because the new UnitedHealth CEO, what's his name? So the new UnitedHealth CEO, Andrew Witty, put out a statement, and I'm just going to let you guys hear it for yourselves.
Our role is a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable.
So yeah, he's defending the company's practices, and he's saying that they'll continue to prevent unnecessary care. whatever that means, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter what your nurse or your doctor says. We know what's best for you. We're United Health. Our role is a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. That is what he said. That's what he says, okay? The system is too complex and ultimately unsustainable. That is what he is saying, okay? With record profits. I mean, making $22 billion last year. That is a huge statement coming from someone who is now running a company that Jesus Christ, grossed over 200 something billion dollars, making 22 billion in profit. That's pure profit, meaning that just goes into the pockets of the people at the top, even the pockets of the people that are at the bottom. But specifically, the people at the top, they're getting paid way more handsomely, and they're just seeing that, and that's pure profit. All right, $22 billion, $22 billion that could have been helped to prevent people's deaths and all sorts of stuff. I'm not even going to go into it. All right, there was a whole like fake post that people are talking about from Elon Musk. Elon Musk didn't put out this post, even though it's like really funny. It says, "It has been brought to my attention that some Americans who are actually cheering for the gunman who killed UnitedHealth CEO Brian Thompson, and that they are saying this is a warning to all CEOs. What these people fail to understand is that without CEOs, the world would not be able to function. And as CEOs, we're responsible for the delicate balancing act of generating profits for shareholders while also ensuring that shareholders are able to maintain their own personal wealth, even in spite of the typical corporate laziness and greed of middle management and their staff. America will be destitute without us. Hashtag Doge." And yeah, I mean, that is obviously fake, but it's just still funny to think that Elon Musk is going to put out a statement like this. I mean, it's pretty laughable. He already got what he wanted. He like literally fucked the entire 2024 election. Anyways, that's my video for today. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to read it. I heart every message that I read. So if I heart your message, but you're saying something stupid, don't think that I'm agreeing with you. I will reply to you. I've read your message. That's me acknowledging it, and I'm replying to it. And that's how it is. As always, this has been Actually Evil. And consider becoming an ally of evil by hitting that subscribe button down below. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening to what I gotta say, and peace. Hi guys, real quick. Okay, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but the fact that he was so careful in New York, I mean like the most careful person in the world, never showed his face except when he was like flirting with the one desk girl. That was the only time. And I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like anybody would slip up at least once, and he only slipped up one time. Okay, one time while he was in New York. Then he got away very clean. I mean, it looked like a professional job. He gets to Altoona, Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden he has literally every single piece of evidence they would ever need to convict him. He just has it on him. They just catch him, and that's it. Like, he's just chilling inside the McDonald's on a laptop, and they catch him. It just does not add up. His caution was out of this world. It was crazy. He had everything set. He had everything locked down. And then all of a sudden, it's like he's a different person. He has no caution. He has everything on him. He looks like a complete amateur. I feel like they would at least know to hide the murder weapon, to get rid of the clothes and the mask and stuff, and to not have a manifesto on him. Like, this just seems really weird that he would have all of this stuff on him. Like, it's literally, if he did not have any of that stuff, they probably wouldn't even be able to convict him. Like, which is insane to say. Isn't that insane to say? It feels like he was set up. He had like everything needed to get a conviction. Everything needed to get the conviction was on him. Okay, he went through a bunch of states. He could have dropped off things in different states, dropped off parts of the gun in different states, could have just dug them up. Literally, if he went 10 steps into a random bush and then dug a piece in that bush and then went back on the bus and did that in like 3 or 4 states, he would have never gotten caught. Like, who's going to think about, even if one person finds one of the pieces, like, they need to find all the rest of the pieces to kind of get an idea. Plus, they would have to find the pieces in the first place. Like, Jesus Christ, this does not make sense. Does not make sense at all, okay? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. Don't listen to me. I just want to be rambling for a second because it just doesn't make sense.